y'all. Hope everybody's doing good. I was gonna let y'all know that today, 5 years ago today, is when I had my sighting from my swimming pool. So this time, 5 years ago, my world had already been turned upside down. So I decided to do a video, and I had to do it in two parts because it was kind of long. I went on to explain other stuff, and then I also added some audio that I captured at the end. It's just two clips. But anyways, I'm gonna quit talking and let y'all watch the first part of this video. Okay, y'all, it was 5 years ago today, June 17th, 2021, when I had my first sighting in my pool. So I'm getting back out there today. It's very windy. Just trying to live my life, I guess. So anyways, I guess if he shows up, I hope he brings flowers and a cake. So here we go. Okay, y'all, it's very windy, so I'm gonna have to do this in between wind gusts. So I'm gonna be having to shut it on and off, but I was gonna go over my sighting with y'all 5 years ago today. But it actually kind of started off on a Monday, and I was out here in the pool floating around just relaxing, and I heard a whistle come from, that direction over there. It was just a real shrill, loud whistle. And then a little bit later I heard it in these woods that you're looking at right now. I was laying on my mat and I was looking this direction right here, and I seen something sticking out of the woods down there. Actually, I think that cedar tree there is kind of blocking the area that I saw it, because it's been 5 years, so that tree has grown. And there was actually another cedar tree across from there that Paul cut, but it was down there from those woods that you're looking at. Looked like a head, like a shoulder and part of the head sticking out of the woods. And I was watching. It was a reddish brown. I kept thinking, well, could that be like a dead tree branch or something? And I laid there and watched it, never seen it move. And so I thought, well, I'm going to float over and get a drink and, kind of watch it. Well, as I floated over, the tree that is now, it's not there anymore. A branch from it was blocking that area, and I couldn't see it. And so when I floated back, it was gone. And I thought, that's very strange, because I knew it couldn't have been a deer. It was up too high. And, and because of the shape. And I would say, because I got my phone, zoomed out, but I would say from where I was at to where I saw it is probably 150, 175 yards, somewhere along in there, 150 maybe. Anyways, that night, Paul and I, or that evening, we sat out front and we heard a knock come from kind of back in that area. And then Wednesday night, we was sitting back out front and heard another knock come from back in there. And then from the other side of the house, we heard what sounded like a really deep, rough sneeze. This was no deer. Paul got up and looked, but it was too dark into the woods by that time. You couldn't see. And the next day was Thursday, the 17th. We were getting ready to go on vacation, and I'm going to elaborate on that here in a few minutes. And I needed to get back out here and clean the pool. And so I came out of my house, and I have to walk beside my car. I'll try to show you here in just a second. Okay, I came out of my house, and I walked past my car, and then I have to walk to those steps. Now, back then, those middle steps, there's 3 sets of stairs there. The middle steps were not there. Sorry, phones. We added those in a couple of years ago. But and as I walked down the driveway and I got to about the steps, I heard a grunt come from the woods on the other side of the driveway. Let me show you. I don't know if you can see how thick those woods are over there, but you can see the road comes down a hill and then you turn to go up to where I parked my car. Well, I heard a grunt come from those woods there. And, you know, I deer hunt, so I thought that was not a buck. You know, it was a strange sound. But in my mind, I just told myself maybe it was a deer, you know, a buck. So I came on down, I got into my pool. Well, I set my stuff down. I had a little tray back then. I did not have a deck on the pool. I had a tray that I would lay my stuff on. I always carried protection with me. And actually, I had a radio out here, and I would put it on Christian music, and I would turn it down really low to where I could just barely hear it. But it made me feel better just to play Christian music. But you know, I turned that on. And I got in the pool, and I heard that grunt again from, you know, up in there. And, you know, of course you can't really see, you know, because of the way this awning is. You know, I looked up there the best I could, you know. Well, I went to cleaning, and, you know, at some point during the process, I heard what sounded like metal hitting metal that came from back in there where I was just previously showing you, you know, back in that where I had seen the reddish brown thing earlier in the week. Paul has metal pops back there, and it sounded like a metal pole hitting a metal pole. And I was like, okay, that's really weird. But I continued on cleaning. And then at some point I heard back in those woods there, and then, like I said, the grunt, sorry, I keep getting my finger in the way. I don't have my gimbal. The grunt came from that side over there. The rest of the noise came from this side over here. But I heard what sounded like either a tree falling or a big limb crashing. You know, and I was feeling uneasy by this time. You know, and I continued cleaning, but I thought, well, you know, for not very long, and I thought, I'm just going to make one more swipe and get out of the pool. And as I came around the pool, and the sun's not going to cooperate, let me wait and see if the sun pops out. The sun popped out. And I hope y'all can see up in there. I've got my phone zoomed. I'm going to zoom a little more. But when I looked up, I was about right where I'm standing at right now. And of course it was cleared out better. You know, the trees have grown and bushed out more, so it was a little more open up in there. But he was standing to the, I guess it'd be the, you know, when you're looking at that big tree, it would be, you know, to the left. But he was standing up in the woods. And, let me see, I might have been a little bit more like that right there. I'm trying to get situated here. Probably more about like this. I'm going to zoom out. And I looked up and I seen him standing there. I was about 15 foot away from my ladder. And I looked at him for maybe about 5 seconds. I mean, your brain is not working right at this point. And that's when I heard her say, and you know, I'm a firm believer in guardian angels. This had made the 4th time in my life that I had heard her speak to me. And The other times in my life, it was to save my life. It always saved my life or my children. And I heard her say, "Don't look at it." So I turned and I looked straight back to the water like I didn't even see it. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, I gotta get out of this pool. Right there at the corner of that carport, Paul had the riding lawnmower parked. And he had stacked some stuff from the boat onto that lawnmower. We had went somewhere we had a pontoon. And there was some coolers and like a pool mat and stuff stacked all up there, And so as I started walking towards my ladder and I got to right in here, I couldn't see it anymore. And right now I'm probably about 6 feet away from my ladder. I didn't know if it was coming towards me. I remember I was backing up, trying to lean back to see if it was coming down here, because the way it was standing, I'll describe that in a minute. It looked like it was going to charge. And the last thing I remember is I was trying to look, I couldn't see it, and I turned towards my ladder, and that's the last thing I remember. Until I was standing on those concrete steps over there. Okay, I was standing on that first set of steps right there, on that first step, the first, flat step. And I remember looking around, and I remember in my mind thinking, where's it at? Where's it at? And everything was foggy. It was like I was in a thick fog. And I don't understand that. And I remember turning and running up the steps. I remember going past my car. And then I will continue on here in just a second about what I can remember. I'm just going to continue pointing the camera to this area right here. Because it's hard for me to turn my back on it. I may turn my back here in a few minutes and give you all a different view. But I remember going into the house, and I have tried and tried to remember, and there are things that seems like I can remember, but I'm not sure. I've never mentioned it because I cannot say 100%, but I'm going to go ahead and tell it today. I mean, it's nothing that I remember out here. It's just what happened after I got in the house. I remember going in the house. I remember locking the door, and it seems like I had my towel and, my sidekick and my phone in my hand. It seems like it. Because I can remember standing there on the rug at the door. We have a rug in front, in front of the door. I remember standing there with my back to the door. And it seems like I had my stuff in my arms. And it seems like I was breathing really, really hard. That's just, and like I could hear my heart pounding in my head. And I can't even be for sure. But that's a faint memory. And it almost seems like a dream, that part. And then, usually when I would come out and clean the pool, I would go in, I would go upstairs, wash off, because this is a chlorine pool. It's not a saltwater pool. And the next thing I remember, I'm in my shower. And I remember standing in my shower thinking, what did I just see? What did I just see? And then the next thing I remember, I was coming down the stairs and Paul was walking through the door. Which, I always tried to time it out to where when I came down, or after I got out of the pool and went in and got cleaned up, I would have a little bit of time to start getting dinner ready. And he was coming through the door. So, you know, I'm thinking I lost 30 minutes to an hour of time. That's my best guess. And then I was going to describe what he looked like. He was approximately 8 foot tall. He was probably 4 foot wide at the shoulders, reddish brown. He had a rounded head. His shoulders went straight out. There was no slant or slope to the shoulders. I could see his pec muscles in his chest. He tapered at the waist. I could see his whole body, but I don't know what that was. I could see his whole body, but I could see the right side really well because the sun was hitting him on that side. And and he was standing there. His thigh, I could see his thigh. It was really huge. I could see his knee. I could see all the way down, even the calf, like the front view of the calf, and it was a huge calf muscle. But what stood out to me, was, he had his arms bowed. Like I said, it looked like he was in a charge down here. And I could see the hair hanging off the arm, and it was probably about 6 inches or so. And it was blowing in the wind. That was the only thing I saw move. The only skin that I saw was his hand, and on the right side, and it was black. But he had his hair pulled over his face. I could not see the face. Right after this, I'm going to put up a picture of one that I found that had the same body type, but the one that I saw was bigger, and of course it was a reddish brown. And then I also have another picture that I kind of created to kind of show what his face looked like with the hair hanging over his face. Y'all, that was creepy. Anyways, I'm going to continue on with something else that I've never really talked about here in just a second. My back to that area. I don't feel comfortable, but I'm doing it. But what I was wanting to talk about is, I had came out here to clean the pool because we was getting ready to leave to go on vacation. And the vacation that we were going on was a vacation that I had always wanted since I was a little girl. I remember when I was about 6 years old, my dad had brought home these National Geographic books, and in one of the books it showed the redwoods. And I remember I looked at that book every day. I was in love with those trees, and I always wanted to go see them. And I probably thought about those trees probably almost every day of my life. And that's no joke. I was just totally fascinated. And we had finally was able to save up the money, and that's where we were headed. So just a few days before my dream vacation, this happens. So when we left for vacation, I was really excited, y'all, to be able to go. Actually, when I saw the first big tree, I cried like a baby. And I remember thinking about my sighting during that trip, but I tried to keep it. I tried not to. So it took me a while, because we was gone for 10 days. We drove, and we was gone for about 10 days. And when I got back was when things really started sinking in as to what happened. and then the time loss. You know, so it took several days for me to realize that I had even lost time. But you know, I don't know what happened. And that's creepy in itself, you know, not knowing what happened. And then I was going to tell you too that, you know, I made myself get back out here. That's just who I am. That's just, you know, I knew if I didn't, I probably never would, so I did. Don't forget to click on the second video. There's more, you know. I was afraid to try to do it in all one video because I do everything from my phone. So anyways, don't forget to click on the next video.